You could start. All right. I'm going to say good morning and welcome to everybody out there. And hi, Keith and the research team. We're excited to be doing this PolarConnect event. It's May 29th, 2018. We'll be listening to our PolarTREC teacher, Keith Smith, and the research team with Dr. Amsler. And he'll introduce us to the rest of his team here in a little bit. They're down at the Palmer Station in Antarctica, which I'll let him explain in a moment. If you can wait a second, I'm going to go through a number of, let's see, we got some feedback from the classroom. So hold on. Hold on. If you're in a classroom, please mute your microphone above the picture of Welcome to PolarConnect at the top. There's a place for a microphone. Please mute your microphone. Yes, I hear you talking about me talking.
Who is that?
Please mute your microphone. Anyway, we will get started here. So today's presentation, you're going to only have video of Keith and the research team. It's a one-way feed. We will not see you. So don't worry about turning on the video. And we are going to be showing the slides in the center of the screen. And as you can see, Keith is showing us a map or a flag of Antarctica from one of the classrooms.
Yeah.
This event is being archived. And cool. Very nice. Yeah, you can show it again here in a moment. We're going to be archiving it. If you are joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat area. Say who you are, where you're coming from, and if you have other students or adults with you. This event does get archived and shared with our funders, the National Science Foundation. And this is just a little bit about PolarTREC before we start. PolarTREC is, like I said, if you've joined us with the classroom, you need to mute your microphone on the presentation. Mute the microphone above the thing, the picture. I'm hearing lots of feedback from classrooms, and it's really hard to talk. All right. So we're going to be hearing from Keith because he's a part of a program where we have teachers that are with researchers, and not only do they go to the Antarctic, they also go to the Arctic. So we have, he's part of a group of 12 teachers this year that will be headed out into the field. This program is funded, like I said, by the National Science Foundation, but it's run by a nonprofit based in Fairbanks, Alaska, the Arctic Research Consortium of the United States. I'm the principal investigator for this event, Janet Warburton, and I'm working with Judy Fonstock, and we'll be hosting this event for Keith. If you have questions as we go along, we won't have time for live questions, but we would like you to post your questions in the chat area. And because this is a public chat, I see that there's lots of individual students and people that are chatting away. Please be respectful and use chat courtesy and proper internet etiquette about posting questions that are relevant to all the audience, and making sure that you pay attention to that and don't get too carried away. We do need to hear questions from a variety of schools. Otherwise, I will take the liberty of booting you off this event. Okay, with that, I think we're going to turn this over to Keith, so go ahead.
Okay, so I am here at Palmer Station in Antarctica. So if you're looking at the map on the left that says Palmer Station, we're on what is referred to as the West Antarctic Peninsula. And we are going into winter right now. So in the southern hemisphere, you have the opposite seasons as you do in northern. So just like in the northern hemisphere, we're going into summer right now, we're going into winter. But we're lucky here. We're a little bit above the Antarctic Circle, or below the Antarctic, above the Antarctic Circle, north of the Antarctic Circle. So we still have some daylight here. Not a lot. It gets light about 10:30 in the morning and gets dark about 4:30, and that'll keep going down pretty quickly every day until we leave on June 15th. And so I'm part of a marine biology group, and so a lot of our time is spent out on the boat. And so if you look at the map on the right, most of the boats we use here are called Zodiacs, and they have around a 2-mile radius that they can go from the station. And so that ensures that if somebody falls into the water, or if one of the diver's suits leak, we could get them back really before hypothermia sets in. We have some other protocol to keep that from happening, but that's one of the reasons why the boating limit is set at 2 miles.
And it's obviously your name. Think about it.
So I was selected by Dr. Chuck Amsler, and he is the principal investigator, or the PI, which we like to say, here. And he's been coming here 20-plus years, so he knows the ins and outs of Palmer Station Antarctica. So it was very lucky for me to join his group. But he's sort of studying the intersection of chemistry and ecology. So he likes to look at, specifically in this trip, amphipods. And so these are, and then very small snails that live on seaweed. And so underwater, the seaweed has other things that grow on it. And these amphipods and small snails sort of keep the seaweed clean. So he's sort of looking at how that relationship works. And then he also, some of the seaweed down here, the macroalgae, has chemical defenses, so not everything can eat it. And so he studies those chemical defenses in the seaweed. And then how this one small crustacean-like species is able to actually live on this very toxic seaweed. So a lot of chemistry going on down here, a lot of ecology that these divers are working on. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Amsler real quick. So he is the one in the green hat in the bottom left picture, and he's the one diving there, and I'll move aside so you can say hello.
Hey everybody, welcome to Palmer Station Antarctica.
So mainly Dr. Amsler is a diver. So if you look in the upper left-hand picture there, that's him with his dry suit on. So because the ocean water is salty, it doesn't actually freeze at 32 degrees. So the temperature of the water is actually a little bit below 32 degrees. And so, as you can imagine, it'd be quite cold to actually swim in that if the water was touching your body. So they have stuff on underneath the suit, and then the suit zips up, which you'll see a picture of that, I think, in one of the other slides. So all that's really exposed is their face area. They have the mask on, but their lips go cold in about, or numb in about a minute or two, and then it's just sort of grin and bear it from that point on. Okay, Dr. Amsler's wife, Maggie Amsler, she is here with us as well, and she sort of does it all. One of the things she is concentrating on, she's a diver as well, but one of the things she's concentrating on are what we refer to as bioassays. And basically, it's for this type of bioassay, it's a taste test. So they take algae and they extract chemical compounds from that algae and then see whether or not the amphipods like the algae with the chemical extract or without it. So they're also doing this. They have some research going on with starfish, which is really neat. You'll see in one of the next slides that I put up us feeding the starfish. And then Maggie is also a diver. So I'm really looking forward to one of her talks next, well, it might be next week. I'm hoping it's next week. She's one of the few people that have been around when old Palmer was here, right? You've been to old Palmer? Yeah. Okay. Oh, and sorry, Dr. Ansler's been there too. I was giving Maggie all the credit. But yeah, we're going to have a talk about the old or first original Palmer Station. And so if we look at Maggie's slide, so she, part of the time, is a baker. And here you'll see in the left slide a red pie that she's made, and then in the upper right a green one. And so one of the pies, it has the seaweed, and then one of the pies doesn't have the chemical extract in it. And so we feed it to the starfish, for example, and if you look in the lower right-hand corner there, the starfish here, this isn't usually a normal behavior for the starfish.
Stick its arms out like
Stick
that?
its arms up like that?
It's normal behavior in an aquarium.
Okay, so it's normal behavior in an aquarium for the starfish to climb up to whatever they can sort of anchor on, and they sort of turn themselves over. So their mouths are on the underside of their body, and they'll turn themselves over. And what we'll do is go out there and place one of these little pies on sort of midway down the arm of the starfish. And the starfish have tube feet, which they use to sort of as their tongues. And so we place it on their tube feet, and they use those tongues to say, oh, I like this taste, or I don't like this taste. And if they like it, they'll use those 2 feet to move it closer and closer and closer to its stomach. And if it doesn't, it'll sort of just push it off, like, oh, you know, I don't want to eat that. That doesn't taste good to me. So that's one of the studies that's going on down here. Our next slide, this is for Dr. Brothers. She is here with us. You'll see her in a second. She is a postdoc at UAB, and she's down here helping everybody out. Her doctoral dissertation was sort of looking at sea star gut bacteria, and you're going to see some cool pictures of sea star guts on her slide here in a second. So she's sort of looking at the stomachs of the sea stars and what bacteria live in there. And then do those bacteria help or hurt the digestion of the sea star? And then are there differences in the bacteria between different types of sea stars? So lots of kind of cool stuff going on, and we'll show you some of that here in a second. She's going to step into the picture, and I'll kind of keep talking.
Hi, everyone.
So that's Dr. Brothers, and
Hi.
so if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that there are lots and lots of different starfish, probably in the hundreds of starfish down here in Antarctica, and so those are just a few of the common ones there. And you can see their body structures are fairly different. Some of them have the long, skinny arms, and some of them have the shorter and larger bodies to them. And then on the picture on the right, that's a cool picture. So that was the dissection that Dr. Brothers did. And the part on the left of the picture in the upper right is sort of the outside skin of the starfish. And then the inside is, starfish have 2 stomachs. So a smaller stomach sort of in the middle called the cardiac stomach, and then the larger stomach, the pyloric stomach, which goes down into each one of the arms, and they sort of store food there for when they need it. But the cardiac stomach is really cool. I wrote about this in one of my blogs, but the cardiac stomach can actually come outside of the starfish. And so let's say a starfish comes along a clam that has its mouth shut. It can send its stomach out and sort of force its way through the mouth of the clam and get inside of the clam and start digesting the clam before it even sort of gets it all the way open. Eventually it would move that back into its body, but it doesn't need to eat inside of itself. It can sort of send its stomach outward. And then there in the bottom, that's another view, a little different view of our station here. Behind CJ, you can see the glacier behind us. So behind our station, there's a glacier that's been receding really since they built it here. It used to come up really pretty much to the back door of the place. Now you have to walk about a half a kilometer or so to get to the glacier. But it's pretty neat. I think I have a nice picture in another slide coming up. All right, our next researcher is Michelle Curtis. She is presently getting her PhD at UAB, and she's brilliant. Graduated high school when she was 16 years old. First in her class of 5. So super, super smart. No, she is very brilliant. So she is down here. She's sort of taking a break from her own doctoral dissertation because a storm wiped out. Yeah, so the storms wiped out the sea stars in the area of Florida, Gulf, Tampa Bay, where she is doing her research at. So she had a little bit of time to wait for the sea stars to replenish themselves. So she thought, get out of the heat, come down here to Antarctica for 4 or 5 months. So she's been here for a while with the team. But she is just sort of does it all, help with the dissections, with the chemical extractions of the seaweed. And then she's working on whether or not the brown algae actually tastes good to the sea stars. And she's we call her our sea star wrangler extraordinaire. So she loves to pick these things up and look inside of them. And I'm going to let her step into the camera here.
Hi everyone! Welcome to my new favorite place in the whole world.
So you can see here, she helps Andrew, another member of our team, out a lot with the chem side of the experiments going on down here. And so in the left-hand picture, you'll see they're using appropriate lab techniques. They have their gloves and goggles on. So remember that when you're doing labs, boys and girls. And then one of our jobs on here is to be a dive tender and to drive the boats. And so if you look in the upper right, that is Michelle driving one of the boats on sort of a snowy, blustery day out here. She's all covered. She's got her clear ski goggles on. And then the picture on the lower right, that's pretty cool. So you can see both stomachs there. So the little button-like stomach on top is the cardiac stomach, and then the sort of green, longer pieces is the pyloric stomach there. So you can kind of get a good idea of both stomachs. That's pretty neat. And so CJ would look inside those stomachs and look at the bacteria that's inside there. One of our team members who's in here with us right now, Sabrina Heiser, who is from Germany, but is getting her doctorate degree at UAB. She is looking at understanding the role of seaweed in the Antarctic ecosystem here. And so she is studying a very specific type of seaweed.
Have you got seasick yet?
Plocamia. Yeah, so it's very seaweed that hasn't been studied a lot. So her and Andrew have actually been able to isolate some never before seen compounds from these the seaweed. And so the seaweed has a ton of chemical diversity within the single species. So one individual from one part of where they dive can have lots of different chemicals from a individual seaweed that they find later on in the transect. So that's what her and Dr. Amsler and then Andrew, which you'll see in a second, that they do underwater a lot. So they'll sort of start out in one spot along a straight line and go and sample seaweed across that transect. So Sabrina is a diver also. So you can see in the lower picture there, and then in the upper right picture is them on the boat before they head in. And so Sabrina has had probably one of the most interesting interactions so far this year. Earlier in the season, she was on a dive, and a leopard seal came up to her and one of the other divers and sort of hung out, and luckily wasn't acting aggressive towards them, but it was quite an interesting experience. She said one time the leopard seal sort of dashed at her, so I can imagine the fright of that. Leopard seals are huge. And then in the upper left-hand corner there, you see what she is working on, the type of red seaweed, the Plocamian seaweed. Another member of our research group here, Andrew Schilling, he's actually from the University of Southern Florida, and he is our chemical guy. So he's interested in isolating compounds and then seeing if these compounds can be used in medical treatment.
Okay, quiet.
Hold on, Keith. Hold on. So we have a feedback from a classroom. I think we got it, but please make sure you're muted. So Keith, I'm actually going to, after you finish Andrews, or maybe before you get into Andrews, you have a whole lot of questions that kids want to have answered. So do you want to wait?
Turn that volume on. You don't have any volume in the
Classroom still, but hold on. I'm getting them. We still have a classroom.
We can't?
That we can hear everybody. Hear Shelley Cook's classroom. We hear you. There you go. I muted you, Shelley Cook. So sorry about that, Keith. You have a lot of questions. Tell me when you want to get to some of these questions. Do you want to wait till the very end after you've done all your presentation,
we'll wait
or what's the best thing that works for you?
I can get to talking and just...
It's okay. You don't have to.
All right, yeah, so we'll wait until the end. So we'll go through until the end, and I'll just answer questions.
Thank you for listening of the thank you of the listening. We're on the first and third tile only. Thank you.
So Andrew, again, is our chemistry guy, and so far he's
I'm in for Oswald. So this is a high school buddy of my husband. He's a high school science teacher in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
He's on a research assignment in Antarctica, and he's doing a live web.
So Andrew's been able to isolate 7 individual compounds just this season alone.
Ideas?
So that's mainly what he does. He is about to get his 100th Antarctic dive. So he's been here last season and this season, so he's a very important part of our team down here. And so here on the left you see the placamium, and on the right is that dendrilla. On the right is dendrilla and the chemical compounds that they've isolated from those 2 different species. So just how for thousands of years humans were getting medicines from plants, terrestrial plants. Now it's sort of time to look into the oceans, maybe for some medical uses there. So that's mainly what Andrew's studying. Andrew's a diver again, going to get his 100th dive. So there's a couple pictures of Andrew carrying some stuff underwater, and then he's surfaced, and you can see that there's sort of ice behind him. You can kind of see behind us there's ice that's floated into the inlet here, and that's called brash ice. All right, so what's my job down here? One of them is dive tending. So in dive tending, we don't actually go into the water, but we help the divers get in and out of the water, get their gear in and out of the water, drive the boat. We keep an eye out for leopard seals. So if there's a leopard seal in the vicinity, we have an alarm that we need to give off that the divers can hear underwater, and they immediately come back to the boat, because leopard seals are the apex predators here, and they don't normally go after humans, but it has they have in the past, so get out of the water almost immediately. While we're out on the boat, we wear many, many layers. I usually have on 3 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of long underwear, 3 pairs of long johns, and then you see the big red suit we wear there, called a Mustang suit, which will keep us afloat if we fall in. Also, it's pretty warm, and we usually wear a pair of waterproof gloves. In the one picture on the left, you can see I have those gloves off because I was helping Maggie get into her gloves that keep the water out of her suit, and so it's kind of a delicate job to get the gloves on, and so sometimes you do have to get a little cold yourself. Great scenery down here. So in the upper left, that is a sunset from here down. So we have an upper left a 4. That is, we have to take a 4 boat ride down here. So that's one of the sunsets out in the Drake Passage, where there wasn't any land. You don't see land for a good 48 hours or so. Upper right there is one of the islands. Do any of you guys know which island that is in particular?
Where was this shot? Here?
No. It's one of the islands that I think it's East Litchfield, maybe.
Oh, it is one of those. Okay, that's Litchfield.
Okay, so that's Litchfield.
Keith, we
that
can't hear you.
Is oh, you don't hear me anymore.
We don't hear you.
Okay.
Keith, we don't hear you.
Oh, no.
Something happened with your audio there.
Can you hear me?
Not.
You hear me? Okay.
Yes, now we hear you.
So in the upper right is East Litchfield.
Yes.
No, it's right here. And that is actually a penguin sanctuary. So we're not allowed on East Litchfield, right?
Right, because it's
Oh, okay. So you're not allowed on East Litchfield because of the plants that grow there, not because of the penguins. But that is a penguin rookery.
Penguin rookery first.
Oh, sorry. Getting my islands mixed up. There's lots of little islands out here. Lower left is a iceberg that floated into our area here at Palmer Station. And then the picture on the right, so that's our little station there. And behind us, you can see in the lower right hand is sort of opposite of the way we're looking. So you sort of be looking back at the glacier that's actually in front of me, which you can't see the way we have this set up. But it's a huge, huge glacier that cows some icebergs into the ocean. So it's really just awesome, beautiful scenery to look at. Here's another sort of overview of the Anvers Island, which is the island that Palmer Station sits on, and one of the mountains back there. Is that Mount William? Mount Williams?
William.
Yeah, Mount William back there. And then, of course, the wildlife here. So the picture in the upper left is actually a picture I took of a fur seal on one of my walks around what we call the backyard. No, upper left. And so that is actually one that I was able to had to walk by to get back to the station. So we see lots of fur seals. The bottom seal is a crab eater seal.
Actually, crab, yeah. Oh, they won't be able to see it.
There's actually a crab eater seal right behind me right now on one of the brass ice, but you can't see it. Oh, that's it? Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah. I'm still getting amazed by seeing all the wildlife here. And then the bird on the right is a giant petrel, which we see all the time. I have not seen any penguins yet. It's sort of late in the season for that, so all the babies have been fledged and they're sort of out at sea. I'm hoping, though, before I leave to be able to see some. And I haven't seen a leopard seal yet either. I've seen some elephant seals, but I guess it's kind of lucky because the 3 dives I've been on, no leopard seals, so that's good for the divers. They get to do what they came here for. And then a little later on in the season here, I'm going to get to go out on a boat with a whaling group that's here. So hopefully I'll get to see some big humpback whales. They're doing some interesting research with drones where they'll be looking down on the whales from above with the drones. All right, any questions or comments? I guess a bunch.
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah, so that's all right. You know, I'll shift you back here. Let's go back to questions here. So there are a lot of questions. I'm just going to start at the top of the list. How many different kinds of penguins are down there?
There are 3 penguin species that we routinely see here earlier in the year. The Adelie, which is just your basic black and white penguin. The chinstrap, which is similar but has a really pretty band of dark under its chin. And the gentoo is the most common one we see here. It's got a orange beak and orange feet.
All right. And while we're on wildlife, do you see any whales? And what have you seen with whales?
We had a whole bunch of science groups here actually earlier in the season, so I had the opportunity to go out with the whaling group. And while we were out, we got to see, just like right out here, a minke whale, which has kind of like a little fin, and it's kind of like a brownish color. And then we went a little further south, and we were able to see a huge female humpback, and she had a little calf with her. So we followed them for like maybe 45 minutes, and the whaling team like got all their pictures and everything. So we do see that. And then earlier in the season, a different group, super jealous, got to see some orcas. So there are whales around, so we'll get Keith out there to find them too.
Yeah, so there on the boat I came down on, there is a whale researcher. He's out right now. The boat sort of comes into the station for a day or two and then goes out either for fishing trips or for whaling trips. So I'll be able to get to go out on one of the whaling trips here towards the end of the season.
Very cool. Moving on through our questions from Hannah. What's the temperature down
we're
there?
sort of like jutted out on this peninsula. Can you hear me?
We don't hear you at the moment.
Hello?
Don't hear you.
Hello?
I don't hear him. Does anybody else hear him?
Okay.
Hear you.
Okay. They
Okay,
hear you apparently. So go ahead.
Since we're sort of out on this peninsula of a peninsula and surrounded by water, temperatures here don't get as cold as what you'd normally think in Antarctica. So our average nighttime temperature is probably around 15 degrees, and then it gets up to the like low 20s. Mainly what you have to worry about around here is wind chill. So I think it was 2 nights ago we had winds gusting over 65 miles per hour. So that can make it feel quite cold. But as far as actually being cold, it's not that bad.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Do you only explore stuff that is underwater?
What? Can you say that again? Sorry.
Devin wants to know.
Did you say, do we only research things that are underwater? Did you say, do we only research things that are underwater? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Marine biologists, right? Yeah, they mainly just study things that are underwater. But it is amazing how like alive and teeming with life the waters are down here. I mean, it's amazing. You're thinking such cold water with such very little life for a big part of the season. There wouldn't be that much life, but you know, the pictures these guys bring back from under the water, it's just amazing how much life there is to study underneath the water. So that kind of takes up most of their time.
We have a question that just came through that I thought was a good one. Can you please tell us how the climate change affects where you are?
You know, warming atmospheric temperatures means melting glaciers. So if you were to go back one slide to the scenery slide, oh, I guess I can do that. One more, sorry. So if you look here in the lower right-hand corner, that huge glacier that's back there has been melting for as long as the Navy's been here, and is retreated, what would you guys say about that? Half a kilometer or so? Half a kilometer or more. So just in the 50 years that people have been coming to the station, we can see direct evidence of that glacier melting back.
Okay. Okay. That's a good one. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You're a little bit lower, but I can hear you.
Can hear me. Okay. Judy and I are having audio issues on our end because of the phone. and we're the only two on the phone. Everybody else is not. Anyway, it's kind of funky at the moment on our end. Okay, what is the, let's see, Melissa wants to know, what has been a challenge that you didn't foresee so far on your expedition?
You know, it's been fairly easy transition. Everybody, the trip across the Drake, which I thought was going to be the toughest part, was easy. These guys have been really welcoming here, everybody on station. I would actually say the one thing is bring lots of like Carhartt, very heavy type parts to work in. I only brought one pair, and I kind of wish I would have brought two pairs instead of some other. So that's just, you know, I actually feel like I packed a little bit too many clothes, but I guess that's been the biggest challenge so far. It's like, oh, I have too many clothes.
All right, very good. Okay, let's see. Has your team made any new or interesting observations regarding the starfish and seaweed?
So we've been learning that the sea stars don't seem to like to not be on the seaweed, which was an open question. We thought that the snails that live on them might be getting a refuge because, like Keith was explaining, they actually walk around on their tongues, lots and lots and lots of little tongues, and we didn't think their tongues liked to be on this nasty, tasty seaweed, but they don't seem to mind, and that has some implications for how those snails are able to get a refuge from things like the sea stars that like to eat them.
Okay, great. Let's see. Shelley Cook wants to know at what rate are the glaciers melting per year?
Tough. Oh, Dr. Amsler is going to come in.
Yeah, it is kind of tough. It depends which parts you look at. On land, right behind the station that Keith was talking about receding, it's on the order of a few feet a year, and there's a research technician who works here who walks the edge of the glacier with a very accurate differential GPS receiver every year, so they've got very, very accurate maps of that. If you look at the glacier that's floating over the water in the harbor, it's receded much, much further than that. And much faster, but we don't have as good data. We just have photographs from various years that we can go from, but it's moving even faster.
Okay. Another question, and this one is person Hardy asked this earlier. Are you the only researcher
well, yeah,
there
as far as high school teacher go, you know, some of the PhD students and postdoc students teach classes at their college, but I'm the only teacher, high school or middle school, elementary school teacher here. So yeah, PolarTREC is a great program. Any of the teachers out there listening, apply. If you get in, you get to do some amazing things.
Okay. From Table Rock Middle School, how are you going to apply what you are learning to future classes?
Hello?
Hi, Keith. This is Judy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
You just have to shake your head. Okay. Let's see. What was
There was lots of feedback on that question. What is Table Rock Middle School? Feedback on that question. Hello?
Hi, Keith. I'll ask table. Let me see. I need to find the question myself. Well, let's just go to a really basic question. Mike Chappelle wanted to know, what do you have to eat there? Tell us about your day-to-day life.
Okay, so the food is great. So there's sort of a transition between summer staff and winter, summer station staff and winter station. And so breakfast, we sort of have to make our own breakfast. We have bagels, cereal, cookies, things like that. For lunch, like today, we had chili rellenos and nachos. We've had hamburgers, chicken wings. It's really a struggle not to put on weight. So, you know, I look at every cookie and go, oh, that's 20 more minutes on the treadmill or 50 more push-ups. So there's lots of food. Nobody goes.
All right. Sounds like they're feeding you well there. Table Rock Middle School asked, how are you going to apply what you're learning to your future classes?
Well, they'll help out because they'll be the ones who are the beneficiaries of everything I learned down here. So, you know, some of the techniques that we're doing in the lab, I'll bring that in there. Just be able to bring this experience, everything that I learned, you know, like trying to act like a sponge and soak up as much knowledge as I can. So just apply all that to hands-on activities we can do.
Sorry, Keith. You've got, some wonkiness on our end again. How about Alexi Shaw was wondering, have you had success in your research down there? Do you and the researchers feel like the field work is going well this year so far?
Yeah, we've had a very, very productive season. It's been great. We've been here since February. We had experiments out in the ocean we put in last year, and we were able to sample them all year, get that experiment up. CJ and Michelle and the rest of the gang have been working hard in the lab and collecting a lot of great data. It's been a very, very, very successful season, and we still have a few weeks left.
Wow, that's great to hear. We have actually a diving question. I see people are wondering, is the reason why you wear black when you're diving so that animals don't try to come after you?
So actually, we don't wear one particular color. Our suits are mostly black. The suits that we used to use were mostly red. We have some different colors on them. There's been a little bit of research done, and the color of the suit really doesn't impact what the seals, which are the things that we're most interested in avoiding, are interested in. So it really doesn't matter what color we wear.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Janet, are you back on now?
Yeah, I can ask a question here. Sorry about that. We're just having a little bit of trouble with some of the technologies. There was somebody, Caleb just keeps asking over and over about the coldest temperature you've been in. So I think we better answer that as directly as
the coldest
you can.
for me would have been the other night when it was that 65 knot wind. I didn't look at what the wind chill was when that was happening. Did any of you guys? Yeah, so well below zero with those wind chills. You guys want to talk about your guys' coldest temperatures or not? Okay. Yeah, so without the wind chill, probably in the high single digits, and then with the wind chill, well below zero. So.
Okay. I found another question.
Very good.
Has your team made any new or interesting observations
ahead,
regarding the starfish and seaweed?
Sure. We talked about that a little bit. So, yeah, that the starfish, you know, because they sort of have their tongues on their arms there that they walk around on, they don't really like to be on that seaweed that is chemically dependent. So the amphipods and small snails will live on there, and that sort of gives them protection from the things that eat them, right? So if you can take, if you're something that is being eaten by something else, and you can take shelter on something that doesn't taste very good to whatever eats you, then you have a greater chance of avoiding being eaten. So yeah, that's one of the things they've kind of been able to figure out that does happen. That the starfish do not like whatever chemical the seaweed is putting off. So it is allowing the amphipods and crustaceans to sort of take refuge there.
All right, so this is a question from Wendy. She says, "Hi Keith, what has surprised you the most so far, and how was your transit on the Drake Passage?"
A week before I left, I looked at the wave forecast, and they were predicting 18 to 24-foot waves, and we got out there and we had nothing bigger than a 6-foot wave. So it was the Drake Lake. So I'm hoping it's that way on the way back across. And I'm really surprised by everything, the scenery especially, you know, like we wake up every morning and come out here and like there's this 150, maybe 200 foot iceberg that has sort of drifted, you know, half a mile away from us here at the station. There's a seal floating on some brass ice right behind me. So just, you know, seeing new and interesting and great stuff every day, and then just getting to know all the people here, from the researchers to the workers. Everybody's got a wonderful story.
Okay, cool. There's some questions coming in from other teachers. Mr. Penn's class says, "You packed very lightly. Are there things that you wish you would have brought with you?"
That I wish I would have probably brought with me. I brought like some more like waterproof type pants, which I mean are good for wearing underneath the Mustang suit. But I wish I would have brought some more like Carhartt type. I brought one pair of Carhartt and one pair of jeans. And those work really well when we're not out on the boat and we're sort of at the station. It's like having that heavy thing there in case you rub up against you know, something sharp or something greasy, things like that. So, but no, I actually feel like I overpacked a little bit. So I feel like I have a few too many like t-shirts and stuff.
That's funny. From Kevin Dickerson, why don't your divers use
Okay, I'm going to let the
face
diver
masks to help with
answer that one.
protection from the cold?
So that's a good question, and in some national programs, like the British, do use full face masks. We don't. We're tough. That's right. No, it's a trade-off. One thing we worry about is our regulators freezing up. And if you're wearing a full face mask and you have to change to a backup regulator, that means taking your mask off or using a system that's complicated in other ways. And so in the U.S. program, we've made a decision that we will not use full face masks. And in reality, my face never feels cold. It goes numb right away. I wear a very heavy hood. Actually, I wear two hoods, so my head overall stays warm. It's just a little bit around my face that does. And we have masks, we have underhoods that will cover pretty much everything but just your lips that we'll use sometimes. But it really doesn't bother us. So we're quite happy with that. It's our hands that get cold first because we can't wear as much insulation on our hands as we are every place else.
Yeah, so related to that, somebody asked if anyone has ever had hypothermia. I guess, maybe above ground or below the water.
So certainly someone has had hypothermia. I don't ever remember in my many years of coming here or even working at further south at McMurdo Station of anyone having hypothermia, because we do a very good job of training and of attiring ourselves and in warm clothes. We're all trained, though, in how to cope with hypothermia and in how to avoid it. So I know that there have been instances of hypothermia, but not one that I've personally been around for.
All right. There were two questions I wasn't sure if you answered earlier when we were having some technical difficulties on our end. One was about how many different animal species have you seen? And I would include the marine biota in that one.
I mean, in the dozens and dozens and dozens. I probably couldn't put an actual number on it. In the lab, they've got dozens of species of sponges. I was helping Michelle and Andrew the other day smash some of those up after they've been in the freezer. So those were kind of cool looking sponges, not like the ones we normally see. I've seen 3 types of seals, a bunch of birds. Yeah, lots and lots of stuff, a little bit of wildlife, a lot of marine life back here in the lab and in pictures.
Okay. One of the other questions that was asked, and then we'll probably wrap up, was how long was your trip in all? So can you kind of give us a synopsis of what you're going to be doing here?
Okay, so I left home,
and what that all looks like.
It'll be 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, and then we leave here on June 15th. So we load back up the Lawrence and Gold, and it's another 4-day passage through the Drake Passage. So we get back to Punta Arenas, Chile on June 19th. And that sort of ends my PolarTREC.
Your first leopard seal.
Oh, I think where?
On the floe?
Right above that red flag.
Right above. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's huge. So I'm seeing my first leopard. Holy moly, that thing's huge. I just saw my first leopard seal. So I've seen all 4 types of seals. Wow. Wow, yeah, lots of good wildlife. Wow. Yeah.
You can shift the computer around so we can see the leopard seal.
Yeah.
Can we see it?
You can.
You can tell us what point. Use your finger and point where we should be looking.
The other way.
I wonder if I could watch the computer.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Oh, there you can
Cool.
see him. He's just to the right of the.
You can walk us. Oh,
there.
yeah. Right there.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
Yep, the beam right there.
No, he's got to go.
That is cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, we did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We see him. That little blob. I don't. Oops. Sorry, people. There we go. Yeah, we can't do any arrows. It doesn't work. So stop doing arrows, and we lose you. Very cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing and everybody joining us.
Thanks.
It's awesome. I hope you have a safe trip home. And again, we wanted to just make sure we give a big thanks and a shout out to the research team for joining you. And it was nice to hear from everybody. You did a great job,
right.
And everybody had wonderful questions. Thanks for posting those. We will make an archive of this presentation, so you could share it with others, and it will be available online. And if you didn't get your question answered today, make sure that you keep reading Keith's journals and posting your questions.
Bye,
to him.
everyone.